Hey, we are in session 2 of our zoomed out look at humanity. Regardless of what you think of Genesis or the Bible, it's worthwhile to consider the truthfulness of its assertions. In the first session, we looked at, in the beginning, God, the beginning few words of the Bible. In that session, we discovered that there are really 2 categories: the Creator and His creation. And we fall in the creation category. In the second session, we discover that humanity is fundamentally broken. You know, the Bible is a mirror to our soul. A mirror is like one of these really honest things. No matter how much you want to look good, once you put yourself in front of a mirror, you kind of see yourself with all of your flaws and your uncombed hair and things like that. This first account of humanity is a little bit like that. It reveals our own brokenness. It also gives us a snapshot as to how we became broken or what led us to this brokenness. You see, Satan, so if we're looking at the fall, it begins in Genesis 3, and Satan begins his assault with one dogmatic pronouncement, or one statement, I guess, that he has no real proof of at all. He says the statement, and it is set in contrast to God, who also began the world with a statement, but God backed it up with real life proof. He created everything. You could see the goodness of God's creation all around. But Satan comes up and says, just out of the blue, did God actually say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? And then he says, you will not surely die if you eat that. For God knows when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Satan is saying, God is scared. God is jealous of you. It couldn't be that God actually wants the best for you. And it couldn't be that what He's telling you not to do is actually bad for you. Satan just comes up with stuff that has no basis. And he appeals to the fact that you could be God. Do you see what we're capable of? Man and woman can do this, can turn against God despite what God has done. Right up until this point, we've seen nothing but God's goodness and creation and the blessings. He's not only created their own very life, but the beautiful world around it. In fact, they don't even have any problems with it. So here's a relational example to help you understand what's going on. What would you say about a man who lets down a friend? Let's say Mr. A helps Mr. B in trouble. Then someone gossips to Mr. B. Now Mr. B doubts the intentions of Mr. A, and then Mr. B turns against Mr. A. That would be terrible. What basis was the gossip on? What fact is it based on? Nothing. You know, that's what Satan has to rest. He says, trust me. Temptation, we have to understand, our first fall, temptation wasn't because things were bad. No, it was because something was fundamentally broken about us. We wanted more. We didn't trust God. We loved the appeal of being God ourselves. And what of Satan's statements that you will not surely die? Well, we did die. John 3:16 says that God so loved the world that He gave His only Son so that we would not perish. Why did Jesus have to come? Because we tasted of the fruit, we acted in sin, and we were doomed to die. That's what happened. And what about knowing good versus evil? Well, it turns out we knew evil, but not as God knew it. We got to taste evil by being evil. So now we know what it was like to actually be evil, to be somebody who has had so many good things and then turn on the very Creator who gave them to us. And we also know good. But now we know good from an unattainable distance. And we know, oh yeah, that's right, God was good. but we can't reach Him. You know, sometimes when I chat with people, and maybe I fall into that category as well, right? Sometimes we feel like we are the ones who get to investigate God. We look and say, oh, is God a good God? Is He worthy of our worship? And with our great brains and our super smart inventions and intelligence, we go, God, let me investigate you. And we find God wanting. We find Him falling short. God, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you fix this? Why did you do this in history? Well, you know, there's this famous story of a man who he reads the novels of Sir Walter Scott, and he comes to this conclusion: there's nothing good in all of the novels of Sir Walter Scott, a very famous novelist. That man, by the way, is not telling us anything about Sir Walter Scott. In fact, by reading Sir Walter Scott's novels, coming to the conclusion that it's pretty much nothing, he's actually just revealing himself. It's like when you look at Rembrandt and you go, oh my goodness, any kid could have drawn that. What's so famous about that? You're just revealing how ignorant you are. You're just saying, because we don't have that capacity to investigate God. And when we investigate God and find that God is useless and hopeless and can't do anything, it's more a statement about ourselves, that we fail to see the beauty of God. We fail to see the wonder of His creation and how powerful He is. So, when we go about our lives and we investigate God, sometimes what happens is we get onto, we have a little bit of a hiccup in our lives, and something happens in our life, and we go, oh no, something's wrong. Then we become conscious that we are the ones who have failures, and we are the ones who are being examined. It's us on the table, and we fall short. That's what's happening in Genesis with the fall, with Adam and Eve. They're like, oh, we can do better. But they fail. Why do we go on doing the things that we know to be wrong? That's the real issue with the fall and with Genesis. You know, we go on in chapter 4 and mankind discovers murdering. And then we go into chapter 6 and wickedness grows across the face of the earth. That's the story of humanity. Why must God punish sin? Well, it's because of what it produces, the death and destruction that ensues. So I hope that as you look at the fall, you will see that we as humans are inherently broken. Yet there still is hope. Genesis 3:15 has this glimmer of hope that even though Satan may bruise our heel, God has foreordained that His offspring in Jesus would bruise his head. God bless.